All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming back from break, first of all, and then for spending it with me. So, appreciate the fact you're here. Again, my name is Greg Zakowicz. I'm with Omnisend. Just very quick, if you're unfamiliar with who Omnisend is, we are an email and SMS marketing automation platform, and we're specifically built for e-commerce businesses. So, if you're a retailer, you're brick and mortar and online, if you're online only, we would like to say if you've got a shopping cart, we could talk, right? So why that's important though is when we talk about accelerating sales in 2022, we want to say, okay, how do we actually connect with the customers from a shopping cart perspective, and how are we going to drive those sales there? Now, if you happen to do B2B or anything like this, I still think the presentation today will be applicable for you as well. So definitely do not tune out. Many of it applies back and forth. So I've been it's crazy to think about, but I've been in email marketing for more than 15 years now, both as a practitioner, as a consultant, and then just in the general marketing industry for different providers here. So the one thing that has been consistent from day one, even back when I was a practitioner, was the ability for brands to really maximize the revenue through the email and other opt-in sales channel. And typically there's one or two reasons why that is pretty consistent through the years. Is few resources, and that could be money or it could be human capital resources. So most e-commerce businesses, even large ones I've worked with, there's like one or two people running the marketing team there, right? Or at least on the email side. And generally they're doing other things as well. So there's only so many hours in a day where we need to do things. So accelerating those sales are really a hard form. And this really leads to the other thing is a lot of times they don't have a plan to do so. And the plan is really, they always say the plan's the important part, right? But when you have few resources and few little time at your disposal, that plan gets very complicated because you have these other things to do. And what happens is you just kind of check the box and you move on here. So really, when we want to accelerate sales in 2022, what we want to do is we want to find the channels we have that we're currently using, maybe not using, or components of them. And then we want to find ways to leverage those to maximize the revenue without necessarily increasing a whole lot of work. So what we're going to walk through today is really the focus on opt-in channels and how to leverage those opt-in channels, not only for opt-in sales growth, but also for your paid sales growth. So we're going to see if those things can work together a little bit more and give you some tactical reasons, ways to do that. The goal is always to maximize the value of what we have. So, and part of this is understanding that not everything like email marketing automation, which you've been hearing about for years, and I'll certainly tell you about today, it's just not all equal. Not everything is created equal. So we need to identify the places where some perform better than others and really hammer down on the things that do perform better. I'm going to talk a little bit about SMS today because we talk about email, but SMS is a major component for growth. I'll show you where that might fit in for your brand and kind of give you some ideas for that one. And then I always say the legs feed the wolf. So when we talk about legs feeding the wolf, holistic marketing, we do one thing here, we know that's going to touch something else, and that thing's going to touch something else. But ultimately, it's your dollar spend from a marketing budget for customer acquisition, customer retention, customer nurturing, all these things that we want to make sure we minimize the cost, maximize the value for it. So through the presentation today, I'm going to give you a bunch of actionable takeaways. So when I present, I always like to say, if someone can disconnect, so when you guys are done with the sessions today, can you actually take something from this presentation and implement it tomorrow? So my goal is to give you some of these tactical pieces of advice where you can absolutely do that. One of the things we need to look at very quickly is just understanding the difference between opt-in and push. And I'm sure everyone is here, and I say push in a loving term, but opt-in channels are where customers are actually giving you their information. Yep, send me a marketing email. Yep, send me an SMS. Yep, allow push notifications on my web browser. Push is really anything they're not asking for or specifically searching out. So you go to your Instagram feed, you're scrolling, you see an ad there. Sure, they're going to interact with the ad. Sure, they'll see you, but they're not asking for the ads at that point. So when we talk about push, it's really all I'm talking about. But the opt-in is really important because if you're dealing with any sort of paid channel, you know that reach is increasingly being diminished. It's very much more of a pay to play now, but there's so much more competition on there. Facebook used to have organic reach. Now it's paid. Facebook groups used to have organic reach. Now that's paid, right? So we're just kind of following the protocol here. We want to make them work together. So when we talk about accelerating sales, maximizing sales for next year, we've got to look at those opt-in channels and say, okay, we know people want to get marketing items from us. Which ones do we give them and which ones are really going to perform well? And then can we find the strategy within those areas? So here are a couple different things. You don't need to study the chart too much. You can see a lot of up and to the right, which is always a good thing here. Automations, your very top line. So your welcome emails, your birthday messages, your post-purchase messages, those are all sending automatically behavior-based messages. The bottom two, while they look like they pale in comparison, are actually year over year up over 100% on those things, right? Email campaigns, which are your scheduled promotional messages, something you might send on Tuesday, are going up from conversion rates. Same with SMS as well. They're just not as good as the automation. Now, here's the one thing everyone's thinking. Well, that's great, Greg, but I'm looking at Q2, Q3, 2020, COVID's hitting, everyone's turning online. Of course, you're going to get the bump, right? Well, yes. But if we factor in 2019 on top of this, we see that it's still going up and to the right. It's still increasing. And then we factor in the first half of 2021 and we still see it increasing. Now, automation came down a little bit, but 33% conversion rate on any sort of automated message you send is astronomically high. So I wouldn't worry about that coming down a whole lot there. So really what we want to do is we look at these numbers and we say, hey, these things have been increasing year over year. I've been living in the email automation world for a decade now. These things have continuing to drive more revenue for brands that are using them. I mentioned SMS might look smaller. It's actually growing. You could see a year and a half ago, it's 1.3%. Now it's 2.4. That's probably going to be closer to 3 when all is said and done this year. But automations, if we look at this chart, we look at that 33% conversion rate, that's where our huge opportunity is going to exist. So we say, okay, where's the opportunity within automation? And then let's start hammering down, because that's going to be one of our big sales levers for this year. We talk about the power of automation here. This is why focusing on that automation is so critical. Left-hand side there, 2020, and then the first half of 2021, percentage of revenue compared to percentage of send. So last year, 29% of all email orders through Omnisend customers came on less than 2% of sends. It was 1.8%. So far, first half of 2021, that number's gone up to 32% to 2.4%. So automated messages while you sleep in the background are driving a considerable percentage of revenue on a very small percentage of sends. And of course, you have to pay per send, right? Typically when you're sending emails. So more revenue, fewer sends, better off you'll be. Here's just a couple of examples of real customers of ours and the overall percentage of revenue they are generating through their email program through automated messages. And you can see consistent theme here. We're looking at 30, 40% on 1 to maybe 5% of total sends. Behavior-based automation is key. So we know, hopefully I set my argument here very well for automation being what we need to hone in on. But then what type of automation? And remember I said not all automations created equal. This is the conversion rate the first half of this year, very similar numbers to all of last year as well. So don't be fooled by the half year percentages here. So the very top line campaigns, those are your scheduled messages, not actually automation. So those are the ones you might schedule out on a Tuesday, batch and blast, you send them to everyone or a smaller part of the list. Nearly 7% conversion rate. That's pretty high astronomically, but that's continuing to go up. So if we're using that as our benchmark, we're like, all right, we've got a good roll on campaigns here. But now we want to talk about which automation we need to focus on, because again, we know you've got limited time, you've got limited resources. I want to make sure we got something applicable for you here. So welcome, abandoned cart, those are two no-brainers. We're converting very high. And then you look at these other ones and they're a little more muddled together. And your first instinct might go, well, I'll just go top 3 down. Lapse purchase is where I'm going to focus. And I would say, yeah, focus on lapse purchase at some point, but not right away. I think that's not where you're going to get the major amount of revenue growth from when we look at 2022. And here's why. There's 2 things to look at with these messages. High conversions, which we can see here. Plain as day, high conversions, check, check, check. High purpose. What is the purpose of the messages? So I'll give you birthday as a good example, 11% conversion rate. Would I sneeze at that? Absolutely not. That's great. It's better than any promotional message I might send throughout the course of the week, the month, the year, whatever it might be. The problem comes in is, what is the purpose of the person who's opening up that birthday message? Now, it might be to shop. 11% of people, it's to shop, but it's not going to be a huge revenue driver because there's not always a shopping purpose here. Lapsed purchaser, right? We're getting people back into the fold, but we're sending it to them because they have purposely not had a purpose to make a purchase. So this is where we look at, and this is where I would focus in on your cart abandonment your product abandonment / browse abandonment. They're really two things, same concept. These are high intent, high purpose, or high intent messages with high conversions, and that's where we're going to focus on. So if we look at just those three messages, our welcome series, our cart abandonment, and then our browse / product abandonment, and that is when I go to a website, I don't actually cart a product and then I leave. We can automate a message based on my behavior, based on the product or the category I'm viewing, and we can get you back in the fold. These three messages alone, out of all automated email orders in 2020, 95% of all orders on Black Friday for automation, 91 Cyber Monday for the whole year, 83%. So we talk about accelerating sales. It's doubling down on the ones that are actually driving the sales and making those better and feeding that customer journey. So this is our high intent messages that we're going to focus on. These are the three I'm mainly going to focus on today to show you how to optimize these things for high intent, get the conversion, get the revenue coming in, and then optimizing it even further from there. So this is really where the opportunity exists. These three messages right here. So I'm going to talk about those, but before I do, I promised you a little SMS chat, a little text message chat here. So we talk about accelerating your sales next year. SMS, I mentioned, is going to be one of those levers of growth here for you. So really what we need to focus on is the fact that it is a growing channel. It is increasingly being adopted by both brands and consumers, but it gives us an ability to maximize revenue, and not just SMS only revenue, but the ability to use that data and combine it with email and combine it with your push and your paid channels as well, and make them work together and really make them work that fits best for your brand. You're not going to do everything, but you're going to do some things here. So one of the biggest kind of hiccups or objections you might get with SMS messages is, it's only for younger people. Everyone texts. Ignore the generational cohorts. Millennials were punchlines for a long time. They're in their young 40s now, into their 30s. We had the Gen Z, which is the youngest generation. They're post college or post university now. That's how old I'm getting. Hopefully you guys are a little bit younger than me, but I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm above the millennials. Thank goodness. I avoided those punchlines for a long time. But everyone texts. It's ubiquitous form of communication now. It's not going anywhere. I'll give you a great example. I flew in today back home. I was up in New York visiting my parents for a long weekend, and I'm laying on the couch yesterday, and all of a sudden my mother's phone is going off. Bing, bing, bing. And I hear her talking out loud because that's what she does. And she's like, ooh, flash sale for XYZ. Ooh, another flash sale for XYZ. So she is a baby boomer. She is, she'll hate me saying this, but she is getting close to 70 now, and she is signed up for SMS marketing messages. So it's a trusted opt-in channel, and everyone is texting. So ignore those generational cohorts and just realize that SMS is here to stay. If we look at overall growth of SMS and just kind of hammer home the point, we can see nearly a 400% lifting in SMS sends from 2019 and 2020. Through the first half of this year, we've increased sends. We're projected to send about 200% over what we did last year as well. Still waiting for those final numbers. Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year, two busiest shopping days of the year. Nearly 1 million messages on Cyber Monday, 1.5 mil on Black Friday. These are just SMS messages, not email, just SMS. So if that puts it into perspective a little bit. And then conversion rates going up year over year as well. So people are not only signing up for it, but they're converting off here. So if you look at the first half of 2021, you'll say, well, Greg, that's a little bit lower here. The same patterns existed for the last couple of years where it's lower than the overall number. Q4, those conversion rates really spike and they skyrocket and they carry the weight for a lot of the rest of the year. I fully anticipate these conversion rates to be well over 2.65. So last year's number. as we wrap up this year as well. Q4 is going extremely well for a SMS standpoint. So the beauty of SMS is we can use it across a whole slew of places, but we can use it in a lot of different ways here as well. So here's an actual screenshot of my phone with my huge text. As you can see, I have eyes here, but it was inundated. These are just in a row. My friends weren't even texting me. It's just all these SMS messages. They're great because they're time sensitive. Email, paid social. We've got to wait for someone to check their email or be on social. SMS, they're going to get read right away. So we can do things like flash sales or last chance reminders because I don't need to wait 12 hours for someone to open an email. I know someone's going to read that message within just a matter of minutes. So it's a lot more time efficient for us. We can use it to drive the email. Check out our Black Friday deals and the email we just sent you. So we can use it to kind of connect these channels a little bit more. Of course, running SMS only offers can be a conduit to growing your SMS list. Of course, we can use it inside automations. We just talked about automations, and I'm going to talk about automations here for the rest of the most of the rest of the program today as well. So we can use that to complement these things and drive the growth even more. And the other thing that no one really talks about is emails, right? And the unsubscribes. You're always going to have people that go on and fall off your email list. And usually once they do, that's where the paid retargeting and all these things come into play. I'd still do those things, but think about the SMS people. Maybe I want to get SMS and not email. Perfect. I now have an option for you. Maybe I want to get both. Or maybe I want email and I don't want SMS. And that's okay too, but it gives you options to continue that opt-in channel communication when someone bounces off your email list because they're just like, hey, not good enough for me, or I don't have a need for you anymore. But the SMS might be there as well. So really important thing to really think about is how to replace and again, legs feed the wolf, right? Can we make these things work together a little bit more? So just a very quick story for you. One of our customers, Divatress, we offer SMS. They kept hearing us talk about SMS. They were very skeptical about SMS. So they're like, yeah, it's not going to really work for us. They didn't believe it, but they figured, hey, we're going to go ahead and try this. Why not? It's free, got nothing to lose. So based on their tier, they get a free. That's a whole nother story. So tell you about that if you have any questions, but they're like, hey, it's really risk-free for us to try this. So through their skepticism, they added their mobile phone number opt-in to their sign-up form, as you can see here. 70,000 subscribers and over 100,000 in sales in 8 months just through SMS alone. It's now a major revenue growth channel for them. 7% of their total revenue they're generating on these digital campaigns are coming from SMS. And then on the flip side, you can see the other kind of conduit here is the automation. So 54% of the revenue on automations, a little higher, but 12% of sends. So 54% of their revenue is coming on messages that no one is actually scheduling, and then SMS fits in that component, and that is a huge growth for them. So if you're not doing SMS or you're just dabbling into it a little bit, definitely think about it as a major growth opportunity for you. But we want to use, again, SMS in conjunction with email. And this is where we want to accelerate those sales with automation, and then we make them work together. So we know people are texting, we know they like it, we know it's increasingly being used, we know that's kind of our next step here. And then we know automation is driving a huge percentage of these sales here. And again, those 3 automations we talked about: welcome series, cart abandonment, and then browse abandonment. So how do we maximize these 3 messages with the least amount of effort for maximum value here? So that's what I'm going to walk through right now. So we're going to start with a welcome series. And a welcome series, for those that maybe don't know or are less familiar with it, it is a series of messages that when a brand new subscriber to your email program signs up, that they get a series of messages from you. And traditional best practices, will tell you to do certain things with it. I'm going to talk about those here in a second. But a traditional welcome series will leave money on the table. And it's really easy money to scoop off that table here if done well. So the first goal is to really ditch the outdated best practices here. So traditional best practices will tell you that, hey, welcome series, what you want to do is introduce your brand in that first message, tell your brand story. Maybe it's a founder story, maybe it's a letter from a CEO, whatever it might be, but we're going to tell this really long story about who we are so that you love us. And then the next message is a managed preference message. So, hey, Greg, tell us more about you. And then I'm going to go click over to a forum and tell you all about my interest that the brand wants to then use for segmentation and better targeting purpose. And then that third message is, hey, connect with us on social media, because of course, no one knows how to find you on social media nowadays. So back in the day, these were decent recommendations. I definitely provided these to some of my clients back in the day. But the problem is that times have changed, right? Efficiencies with e-com and phones and all these things have changed. And it really changed the dynamic of this welcome series, where they still convert well, but not convert as well as they should. It's because they lack one specific thing with each of those messages, and it's customer intent. We talk about high purpose messages, right? What is the intent of the customer when they are signing up for your program? And these messages about the founder story and the managed preferences and the social media invite message, they lack intent. They don't actually cater to what the customers wants here. So think about me. I go to your website and I get presented with a pop-up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll sign up for your email program. Why am I on your website? What am I doing? I'm probably shopping myself, a gift. Maybe I saw an ad on social media and I clicked through, but something caught my eye about a product or a service that you guys have that leads me to your website. There's a lot of intent with me at that point. My intent is not to fill out a form and tell you all about myself before I do anything, right? Really manage preferences. So if we think about the customer journey with all your messages, think about the customer journey, really what matters to them, you can create a better welcome message. So more specifically, what you could do across all messages, not just welcome, but promote your value adds. These are the things that are going to matter to a potential new shopper. And things that could be, I have a few listed here: return policies, free shipping, right? Whatever it might be. Here's a message I whipped up in a matter of about 3 minutes here, just to kind of throw something together, an example of a welcome message. And yeah, it is a little more salesy, but that's okay, right? My customer intent is that I might be shopping for something. So if we focus on the value adds, promote them in here, welcome them, we can still do all the things and make it seem friendly. If there's a brand ethos that is really important to your brand, of course, put that in there. It doesn't have to be a story, but it could be that ethos, right? All our products are 100% organic, cruelty-free, not tested on animals. Those things might matter to the consumer. But otherwise, let it go. Focus on the customer intent here. So user-generated content, customer testimonials, 5-star ratings, customer favorite products, right? These are things that matter to someone who maybe has never shopped with you. Yeah, I do want to know that you get 5-star ratings. I want to know customers love you. I want to know what the favorite products are. Like, where should I be spending my money and my attention? So if you have a welcome message that really caters to the intent, you could have something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly this. It could be a much shorter, it could be longer, but we want to cater to that intent and try to drive a sale there. Very simple tweaks. All this content currently probably exists on your website or in an email already. It's just a matter of shaping it a little bit different way. And then the rest of your series, instead of the managed preference message, you could do something like top rated products or customer favorites, right? I have a dedicated section there. So most popular jeans, most popular sweaters. It could be useful content. So think about recipes or sizing guides or anything like that really ties back to the product, but it guides the customer along their path to purchase. Those are things that might matter to them. And, if the story of your brand truly, truly matters, you can probably put it in there somewhere, but it definitely truncate it. No one's reading that long letter anymore. And this is really how you build an intent-based welcome series. You just think about what the customer journey at that point in time and say, it's the customer journey. What would help them make a purchase here? And if you build your messaging and frame it around there, you're going to see better results from your welcome message here. And then the goal is, once you have a welcome message or a welcome series that's more catered to intent, then you want to optimize it a little bit further. So if you already have a welcome series and you're like, hey, Greg, I've done that before, I'm catering to intent, we want to optimize it a little bit more. And this is where following the data, following the customer information comes in, is the power of a click. What can a click tell you? We talk about customer intent. Well, a click will give you a lot of intent. Think about what the difference between someone who clicks on a men's, women's, and kids link in your email would be, or the difference between someone who clicks on shoes or sweaters, or maybe you sell jewelry and you click on earrings, and another person clicks on engagement rings. There's a pretty big difference, maybe how you want to market to that person who might be shopping for a proposal versus maybe an anniversary gift or just some earrings for themselves. So if you follow the click, you can actually optimize these messages and change the entire structure of your series and better cater to that intent in the customer journey. So the goal is to follow the click and then guide the journey. And that's the goal. We want to guide that journey here. So for instance, someone clicks on engagement rings in that first welcome message because you've got your products there. You could do a very simple split in your workflow that says, okay, clicked on engagement rings, send them this series of messages, which is maybe talking about sizing guides or ideas how to propose or how to choose the right diamond cut, all things that as a guy, when I proposed to my wife, I had no idea about. What's the clarity mean, right? And we really guide that person down the journey, and we give them what they need. Earrings, man, we talk about customer favorites or most highest rated products or whatever, right? And maybe it's an easier sell at that point, but follow the clicks. Think about in your own messages what could really matter to the person, and you can craft a customized welcome series based on that one singular piece of data, which, by the way, should also help your paid retargeting or your social media ads. Hey, if I know I'm clicking on engagement rings, bam, you got me there. So here's an example of a simple way to do it. Look at the email on the Black Halo one here. Very top line, value add, complimentary ground shipping on all domestic orders. They offer an incentive for signing up. They're going to put that right away. Their call to action is not to read the story. It's to shop now because that's the intent. Now they threw a welcome SMS into their program for SMS subscribers as well. So they're going to have that 10% discount either on their phone right in front of them, on their phone inside their email, or their desktop, wherever they are, that can follow them around and make it easy for them to purchase at that point. So you can see the earning per message for that SMS. Very good. This welcome series for this company drives 9% of their total email revenue on 0.2% of sends. 9% of revenue on 0.2% of sends. And then we're generating the SMS on top of that. So this is all beauty for them. So this is really where that relationship starts. Now, hopefully we bring them in. We have a nice intent-based welcome series. We've optimized it. We get them. They put the item in the cart. Those are great engagement rings, Greg. Ring. They don't need more than one. That's a great engagement ring. Check out. And of course, we know that shopping carts get abandoned. And this is just the inevitability of it. So about 70% of all carts get abandoned. You can do some things to minimize that, but people are always going to abandon. Some are abandoning just to get a discount or see if you have one in there. But even with cart abandonment, where you can send the most simplistic message in the world, and it probably converts extremely well for you and does great, simple tweaks can pay huge dividends with cart abandonment as well. And again, how do we optimize this with the least amount of effort? So again, if we think about the customer journey and think about the customer intent, even with our cart abandonment messages, where we know that they have very high intent because they place specific items in their cart, we could do two things to optimize these messages, make them more effective, increase our sales next year. And really think to yourself, what matters most to the customer and who is the customer? Because those are things they are going to do here. So two ways to really think about this. You can see the bottom two bullet points there: cart total, purchase history. This is what can tell us a lot here. So with cart total, what we can do is say, okay, maybe we have a free shipping threshold over $35. We'll just use that as an example. Well, if our abandoned cart is under $35, we can send a message, maybe the same one you have now, promotes free shipping over $35. We really want to get them to get their value up because we know people don't like to pay for free shipping. So that should be our goal. How do we get them to qualify for free shipping? Could be a discount with a minimum spend of $50. So we know we're going to drive that average order value up. We're going to give them a discount, but we're still going to be above the free shipping threshold. And maybe they're going to, that AOV will creep up a little bit more. Maybe for those, we definitely want to talk about return policies, stuff like that. But for those over $35, the free shipping is not a reason they abandon, right? It's something else. So if you have a $200 cart, chances are you're abandoning because $200 is a lot of money. So what matters to you most at that point? Well, that's probably more of return policies. Can I return this? Can I exchange it? How long are those return policies? What's the speed of shipping? Right? These are all things that might matter to the person over that free shipping threshold. So if your default message in your cart abandonment is, hey, free shipping, free shipping, free shipping, that's not why they abandon. So we can focus on that customer intent a little bit more. So just a simple split based on cart total can pay dividends. Now, if you don't have free shipping, And that's not an example. Think about what cart total, what's your average order value? Is it 75, 125? And base it on your average order value and play around with different incentives at that point. And then the purchaser themselves, who is abandoning that cart? Have they never purchased with you before? Have they purchased with you one time and now they're coming back to make their second purchase? And that's where we know the value of the customer is going to go up. Are they a frequent customer? Are they a loyal customer? Because a simple split based on purchase history can do a lot for you as well. So think about it. Never purchased with you before. We want to get them in the fold. We want to do everything we can. If you offer a 10% incentive for signing up for your email program and they haven't used it yet, of course, you can remind them they've got that code there, or offer 10%, try to get them over the fold, right? But we want to structure something with to convince them to purchase. And it doesn't have to be discount based, right? If they've never purchased from you before, they probably want to know about return policies. Put a testimonial from a customer in the message itself. Doesn't even have to be about that product, but put something in there to showcase that people love your brand, make them feel comfortable purchasing from you. If they're a first time returning for a second time, you have some data, you have their average order value based on the last order. You know they're going to be profitable. If you're spending money and offering discounts from a retargeting purpose, think about how you can use that money and offer them a discount here instead of hitting them across all these other push channels. There's a lot you can do with that first time to returning customer. Maybe you even want to offer them a bigger discount, but put a higher minimum spend on it. So, hey, we'll give you 20% off, but you have to spend 75 or more, whatever it might be. And then your loyal customer, maybe you don't need to offer them a discount, or you offer them a discount with no minimum spend on there because you know they're going to make a purchase. You have an AOV already in mind. Maybe you don't need to send them 3 messages. Maybe they just need 1 in an SMS or 2 message reminders. So you actually shorten the series for your loyal customers, extend your series for your earlier customers. And this is really where the option is at your disposal. Do what you want with it and figure out what works best for your brand. And super simple to do, but just think about how an experience like this could work. So, hey, Bannon, what's my card value? Split it. And SMS, again, we add SMS into here. So last chance reminders, hey, we're about to expire your card, or don't forget your cart incentive or your cart discount here. So you can mix these things, these channels into the same workflow. So, hey, this workflow is email or SMS based on your subscriber status. This one's email and SMS, and we make these things work together. And then some might just be SMS only or email only, right? So there's a lot we can do here with very simple splits. Now, these splits are important. Give an example, Beware Sportswear here. They're like, hey, we got split technology. Let's do some splits. We've got different channels, email and SMS. Let's make them play together. So they did, you can see here, I'm not going to go bullet point by bullet point, but they split these things off. They use 2 different channels. They're seeing a much higher conversion rate, so 48% conversion rate, just under. But compared to their series before, they're generating 15% more recovered revenue from the split and multi-channel series than they were before. So instantly, if you think about this, this is one of those messages that is driving the majority of your automated and the majority of your total email revenue, and then you're lifting it 15%. So all automated, but running in the background, very simple to set up, can take as little as 2 minutes to set some of these splits and automations up. So if you really think about maximizing the value, that's the way to do so. And then the third one, I'm not going to spend as much time on cart and welcome because those are going to be your biggest revenue drivers, but really we have people bookended here, right? So we have welcome for brand new subscribers. We have our cart for people who are close, but then we got this middle ground here. And this is really where product or browse abandonment messages come in. And again, go to your website, I don't cart a product, I leave. We can trigger that behavior-based message catering to whether it's a specific product or category of products. So you can see results, very good, 18% conversion rate, 10% conversion rate. So this is really where we can focus on using our browse abandonment strategy to cater to that intent, keep the customer purchase journey going, the customer journey decision cycles. So whether you use product or whether you use browse abandonment doesn't really matter. Product, you're going to have more specific. It's going to be product-based. You'll have fewer sends. Browse abandonment, it's going to be broader. Think more category specific here. So, easy way to set them up, high volume products, seasonal products that you want to move. Maybe it's custom products if you're doing product abandonment, right? It's a heavy electronic that maybe there's more decision cycles or things like that on there, or higher margins on those things. So really, we can set these up and say, hey, when a user leaves, we'll automate a message off to them. We'll reinforce it with our value adds. Always focus on those value adds. If it's specific to the product, maybe you want to tell them a bit about the product, and then just use a sense of urgency. But as opposed to a batch and blast message you might send on a Tuesday, these messages are timely and relevant because they're based on user behavior, and that's why they convert well. So if we look at those three pieces of automation that are driving the majority of our revenue, we could say, okay, we optimize these with small, simple tweaks. We can really accelerate the revenue next year. And here's an example from a company, Figpin. They did exactly that. They implemented those three messages. 24% of their email marketing revenue comes on these three messages, 4% of email sends, right? So think about how we can do all these things from an automated standpoint to increase our sales and really maximize the revenue, and then continue to iterate and make them better and better and better and better. So, we see these 24, you can see 24% on 4% of sends. We saw the stat earlier, 32% on 2.4. These are pretty typical. Back when I was working with clients, that was always my goal here. So 3 messages, that's all you got to work on. You can increase your sales next year. And then for the last couple minutes here, I just want to briefly talk about how to use email to help paid retargeting or any sort of paid channels, and help the paid channels drive the email and SMS as well here. So I think we all know this, if you're involved with paid, is that spend is going up. There's more social networks than ever. They're more popular than ever. So of course, the spend is going to go up, but the conversions and the performance doesn't always follow suit. Now, still good channels to advertise on, but you can see as the cost per click continues to increase, the overall clicks and the click rate are really following suit here. So we need to find a way to maximize our spend here to make the ROAS as best possible. So what we can do is, think about using email activity to drive your decision cycles for some of the paid retargeting efforts, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook. So for instance, hey, it's Greg, I haven't purchased in a while. So we're going to take our lapsed purchasers. We'll load them up in the Facebook. We'll create a lookalike audience here. And those are our lapsed purchasers because we'll target you that way. Well, that's well and good. It's a fine strategy, but think about how we can sync these a little bit more. So, for instance, if you have a sync, say every 15 minutes that goes and updates those lookalike audiences, you might find out that, hey, Greg is a lapsed purchaser, but I was checking your emails the other day and I clicked on the email, and then we could take that click activity and say, okay, they're active. We got these automations set up like browse abandonment. We're going to try to generate and target them on email versus spending this extra money on to push that over to Facebook, or Instagram, or to Google search properties, right? So we want to use that data to kind of pull together. And then for customer acquisition, where a lot of this paid comes in, make sure your opt-in forms are optimized on your website for both email and mobile phone collection. So if you're spending money to get them to your site, maximize their value on your site, capture those other opt-in channels. And that's just going to give you options, and it's going to give you the ability to create better lookalikes audiences and better segments where you can then have better performance on your paid channels as well. So a lot of times what we find is paid and opt-in, there's a little bit of headbutting, right? It's which one's better. This is what it is. The goal is to make them all work together, right? And if we can drive down costs, whether it's cost of email, cost of SMS, cost on Google search, cost on Facebook, Instagram, cost on Twitter, whatever it is, if we can lower the cost and maximize the sales, the better effort would be. But we can only do that if we're tying the data pieces together here. So if we're looking at 2022, tons of information. I am available for questions for you, but we want to bring it all together. And we just want to say, focus on growing your opt-in channels, email, SMS. That's where you're going to be able to use that data, whether it's on those channels or elsewhere, to generate the most amount of money for you. Automation is essential when it comes to email marketing. If you're not doing automation, you need to do it if you're serious about increasing your sales. And again, follow the money. Where are those sales coming from? I showed you the 3. Cart abandonment, welcome series, browse abandonment. That's where your money makers are. That's where you want to focus on there. Rethink best practices. I don't have to tell you all the answers. You guys are smart enough to figure out what those new best practices are. If you follow the intent of the customer, you'll make the best message every single time. So intent of the customer, value adds, put them together like peanut butter and jelly. They're going to love you for it. You'll increase in your sales. And then time and resources, just start simple. one message at a time, automate it, let it run, work on the next message there. So welcome message one, send it, build a second welcome message, get it automated sending, build a third one, continue down there. And in 3 months, you'll have all these messages done, optimized with splits, I promise you. So thank you guys so much for your time. I think I hit 40 minutes exactly. Here's my email address. If you guys have any questions, you can always visit us at omnisend.com. I'm on social media if you want to find me as well. So thank you very much for your time. And Nikita, I'll turn it back over to you, my man.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg, for this great speech. Thanks for this information. One question.
Yeah.
How do you think we are living now in the COVID era? So that's why the automation grow and etc. And how do you think if we will fight the COVID? Will we roll back to those instruments that were before, or will there be any new instruments and any new ways to have our revenue from?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I'm not Nostradamus, so I can't predict, but I do think there's going to be a natural clawback a little bit, right? So to your point, Nikita, we saw that increase in 2020, right? As it was going up as COVID kind of hit in, but we also saw it was increasing in 2019 before COVID was around. So I've been seeing it for 10 years, the automations each year, a little bit more. So I think we'll eventually have a little bit of a clawback with a variety of channels. I think it's going to go to paid social, the search, everything. But I think we've kind of get to the point where consumers kind of like, for the most part, they like where they're at. They like the ability to opt in and opt out of certain things. I think from a social standpoint, even though it's been hot and heavy, I think that, even though consumers aren't asking for it, they're used to it. And it is a good place for product discovery, the social ads there. So I think the way it is integrated with social media, I think the performance will probably go down a little bit, but I still think it's going to be a really viable channel for you. New things are always going to pop up, and they might be permanent things like SMS. They're like, it's never going to last. It's been here. It took a long time for it to kind of grow, and now it's finally rooted and established. You might get things like that pop up from time to time. If I had to look at something, I would say web push messages. Still early. Last year and a half, performance has been skyrocketing. I didn't really talk about it much today. I mean, it's been blowing up. I still think it's a little bit early. I think it's going to be probably a use case channel more than like SMS, where it's a permanent channel. But I would look at small things like that. Technology is a driver of these things. So as they,
yes,
if they can sell you something, they'll find a way to sell you something, right? It doesn't matter what things. So I think there will be a natural clawback, but I think other things will kind of creep up and fill in those gaps a little bit too. So I don't think it's going to be a big shift from where we are today.
Okay, thank you, Greg. One more time, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Same here, and thanks everyone.
Thank you, and see you on other events.
Sounds good.
Have a nice day.